President Biden is in Europe today, announcing more military support for Ukraine. He's also announcing additional sanctions on prominent Russians. The U.S. is also planning on welcoming 100,000 Ukrainian refugees.
Now, this comes after the high-stakes meetings with NATO leaders and a plea for more help from the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Here's Alice Barr from Washington.
President Biden in Brussels for an emergency NATO summit, rallying allies to ramp up their response to Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine.
NATO has never been more united than it is today. Putin is getting exactly the opposite what he intended.
The president announcing new sanctions on 400 Russians
that fuel the Russian war machine.
The Biden administration also planning to let as many as 100,000 Ukrainian refugees into the U.S. and pledging an additional $1 billion in humanitarian aid.
To be engaged and do all we can to ease the suffering and pain.
NATO leaders promising to double their military presence in member nations near Ukraine and send more defense equipment to Ukrainian forces amid concerns that a frustrated Russian President Vladimir Putin could turn to chemical weapons.
Chemical weapons would totally change the nature of the conflict. It will be a blatant violation of international law.
It would trigger a response in kind.
Addressing the summit by video, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying just today Russia used phosphorus bombs, killing civilians, though the U.S. has not confirmed that. Zelensky telling the NATO alliance if it stands for peace, it must do more to save innocent lives. President Biden also meeting with G7 allies and the European Council, hoping a global show of force will finally push Putin to halt his rampage across Ukraine. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
So much international discussion about Ukrainian refugees, but here in Colorado, Governor Jared Polis says our state's door is open and welcoming Ukrainian refugees. He wrote to the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, that Colorado is ready to provide support to Ukrainians.